Hi, this is Scott with Etrailer. Today we're taking a look at and installing the Demco Air Force One for 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe. So if you're looking to flat tow your Jeep and you have an RV that has an air brake system in it, this is going to be one really good way to go. This is going to be a truly proportional braking system, and every time that you hit your brakes on your RV, it's going to transmit that signal to your vehicle, and your vehicle is going to brake at the same pace that your RV does, which in turn is going to give you a good, safe ride going down the road. It's also not going to wear out your brakes or anything on that. With it being truly proportional, you're not going to get any dragging of the brakes or anything with your system not acting with your RV. So it's a really good option. Another thing with it is it's also going to keep you legal when you're flat towing in all of the 50 states. So that way you're not getting in any kind of trouble. Say you're pulling through the mountains, you gotta have a braking system on there. So this is going to keep you safe going down the road to your adventures. Now, if you're looking to get into flat towing your Jeep, you're going to need 5 main components. You're going to need your base plate, you're going to need a tow bar, your tow bar wiring, a braking system, and your safety cables. So if you have air brakes on your RV, this is the system I usually recommend. It's a really good quality system, and I do like some of the options that it comes with. This one is going to come with a wirelessly monitored system here, and what it's going to do is it's going to wirelessly transmit a signal from your vehicle to your RV and let you know that your brake pedal is being applied. Now, some systems will have you just have a stick-on little LED light that goes on your mirror, and sometimes that's kind of hard to see depending on how your RV is set up. But this one allows you to keep looking forward, keep your eyes on the road, and you'll be able to see what your brake system is doing right there on your dash. Another nice thing about this setup is you can get a second vehicle kit, which allows you to have everything the same on your motor home, and then you can get all the vehicle side components to get a second vehicle setup to pull behind your RV. So if you already have the Air Force One or you plan on getting it, you can always leave a question or comment below. We'd love to hear from you. But as far as installation goes, this can be pretty involved. You're going to have to be running some wire. You're going to be setting some stuff up on your RV, and you're going to be running a lot of plastic tube. If it's something you don't feel like dealing with yourself, you can always take a look at our dealer locator and get something done for you close to your home. If it's something you feel like tackling yourself, stick around, watch our video, and we'll help you get it installed. To start our installation, we want to figure out a good place to get our control box put. So what we did is we went right on top of our power supply here, and we just used hook and loop to get that put in place. Now with that, we'll be able to remove this anytime we need to get into any of our fuses or at our power supply. So with that, I do want to keep some of our lines a little long, so I'm going to keep these a little longer than normal instead of trimming them off too short. That way it gives me a little room to pull this off. And the same with our line. Now we have our air inlet. This is going to be air going in to our control box for our Air Force One. Now normally it's going to come on this mount, and this is going to allow you to kind of mount it anywhere you want. But I kind of went ahead and did a little bit of a custom thing. I had an extra bracket laying around, and I needed a place where I can kind of keep everything centrally located. So what I did is I just trimmed up this bracket, cut it up, cleaned it up, painted it, and drilled a hole and mounted this here. That way I'm going to have everything centrally located, and I can mount everything in a basic area right here. Now we have our breakaway switch, and this is a mount that comes in our kit. Now we're going to put that behind our plate, and we're going to kind of sandwich everything together. Now we'll just get everything pushed back up in place. This will also help us out with not having to do a whole lot of other trimming, but it can be a little tricky to get everything lined up and put in place. Now with our line, we ran our line down underneath and through down under the front fascia. Then we ran in behind here, and this is where we ended up putting our air inlet. And this is going to allow us to get air in from the RV into our system so that we can activate our brakes through our RV. And since this is our 4xe, what we have to do with this one is a little bit different than we would normally do. We're not running to any vacuum source on our brake system or vacuum booster. So what we did is we just had to run a rubber plug from our hose in our kit to this, and then we also have a plug that comes in our kit, and just put that on the end. And then we leave our exhaust side open. So now with that, I want to keep a little extra line so I have room to pull my box in and out. So I'm just going to push my line down a little bit. Now I'm going to take my line cutter, get a nice square cut in my line. Now I can take my line, make sure it's good and clean, and run that to the air in. Make sure you just push that in and it seats up, and give it a little tug, and that'll help you know it's in there good and tight. Now one of our wires coming out of our box, that is going to be our ground. So fortunately, we have our ground terminal right here that we can go to. In our kit, we're just going to take one of our ring terminals and get that crimped on to our wire. Now with that, we'll take a 13mm wrench and loosen our factory ground terminal. Now with that loosened, we can install our ring terminal. And just go ahead and re-tighten down our ground post. Now our black wire that comes out of our box, we're going to take and hook it to our wire that comes from our breakaway switch. So what I'm going to do is just take a heat shrink butt connector and get that put onto a wire. Get that crimped in place. Now these will not come with your kit, but I do recommend using these. These are going to give you a good waterproof seal and keep your wires from corroding. Now we'll just crimp on the wire that comes out of our box. Now let's give them a little tug, make sure we have a good connection. Now after I have those connected, I'll come back through with my heat source and get this shrunk into place. All right, now we have our wire that comes out of our breakaway switch, and we took a piece of wire and extended this and hooked these two together. Now our black wire that we have here is essentially going to be an extension. What that's going to do is run all the way across, and we ran all the way across over by our air filter housing, and now we ran up through this foam over and then over into our firewall. Now we ran it in with our air line that's running in, that is going to go to our cylinder for our brake pedal. So we ran those in together, and now we'll make our connections inside of our dash. All right, we got our wire run through, our extension wire that came off of our fuse holder underneath the hood. Now we ran that down and we ended up hooking up our red wire that comes out of our transmitter. We got that hooked to that. Now that wire, the white wire, goes to the brown wire that hooks up to our reed switch, and then our blue wire goes up and meets up with the ground. Now with all those connected, we want to find a good place to put this box, and we're going to try and get it put over on our driver's side and kind of in the middle as much as we can. And what we're going to do is just hide all of our wires, and that'll get us all set up. Now I went ahead and routed our wire up in behind this. I was able to tuck it behind this little plastic panel. It just fell right in place, ran up over, and then ended up putting our transmitter box down in behind this panel, and managed to go ahead and double stick tape it down underneath and behind this so it's out of the way. Now for our cylinder, we just got it mounted in place, and we want to make sure we get our line as straight as we can get it. And one of the things we're looking for as well is when our brake pedal is pulled, we want our line to go fairly straight towards our floorboard. So when we're looking at the line, you can pull back your cylinder and you can see that when you're pushing down your pedal, your line is fairly straight. Now it is a little tricky getting to the place back in there to run your screws with your brake pedal in the way. So just take your time and just run them in. They are self-tapping screws. So just keep pressure on those and just pushing through, and those will end up running right in there for you just fine. Now with our line that runs in, we just plug this in the same way we did our other lines that we showed you. Just make sure you have a nice clean cut and a good 90-degree in it, and push it in until it stops, and you'll have a good connection there. And now where I clamped it onto our pedal, we just want to get it clamped around it. And I did try and use the shorter screws that it comes with in the kit, and those weren't quite enough to get it done. They weren't long enough. So in your kit, it will come with some longer screws. So I just had to take this mount apart and then run our longer screws in where our shorter ones were. And then I ended up getting our plates on and then screwing that into place. And now with this back here, you can adjust your cable tension. You want to have a little slack in this, so you can adjust your cable tension by either running the cable in and out of the mount down here, and over here you're going to have an Allen wrench to tighten that all up. You can loosen that and then pull your cable through to adjust it that way, or you can loosen your cylinder with all four of these nuts on this, and you can pull that back or forward that way with this. Now we're just going to get our power hooked up. We do not have a fuse installed yet. We're going to take a 13mm socket and just back off our nut, and this is the nut that's underneath of our jump post. We're just going to get that connected. Just run that down finger tight. Now we'll tighten up our connection. Now with our connection made, we can pop in our 10 amp fuse. Now we're moving on to our motorhome side of our installation for our Air Force One. And this one's going to be on our Allegro open road, and it is just on a Freightliner chassis. So if you do have a different chassis, it's going to basically be the same thing. So you can also follow along and see how we do this. But you will want to follow your instructions and make sure you have the right chassis and you're installing it the way they want you done on the chassis that you have. Now we do have this up on a lift, and it's just going to make it a little bit easier for you guys to see. So you can do this on the ground, but it is a little bit tricky. You just got to scramble around under there to get it done. So now we'll take a look underneath and we'll show you what we're going to get done. Now back up under our RV, kind of in front of the differential, we're going to have our area where all of our air lines are coming to. Now you're going to have this control module here, and this large green line that I have here is going to be our supply line. This is what's coming from our tank and then coming to this for our brakes. Well, that is the one we're going to put our large T in. And now if we come down here, we have our metered line. This one is another one with the blue tape on it. And what this one is if you need to try and find this line, all you have to do is just pull off the line and have someone push on the brakes. And if air shoots out, and that's how you know that this will be your metered line. Now, one of the first things we want to do with our lines is make sure we get them really clean. So if you want to use any kind of brake cleaner or anything like that, you may do that. You just want to make sure they're good and clean. Now, when we cut our lines, we want to use some good line cutters. You want to make sure and try and get your cuts pretty square. But now we'll just get our fittings put in place. We want to push them on pretty hard and they will come to a stop. Now, we just want to make sure we have a clean end like we did our other lines, and then push down into our connector on our T and make sure that seats out on the bottom, just like we did on our other connections. Now, on our metered line where we have our T, we ran our line up and over, making sure not to touch any moving parts or anything hot. And we ran it forward to where we have our tank installed. So now what I'm going to do is we'll show you where we install that line on our tank. Now, running our line, we went and just followed the frame rail up and over on our driver's side, ran it above our frame rail, went above both of our differentials. Above those, we ran on top above some lines, so those are going to help hold them up in place. And what I'll end up doing is after I'm done running all of my line is I'll come back through and tie those up with wire ties. So now I have my metered side line and I'm back here at our tank and we have this connector right on top of this, and that is where I'm going to run my metered line. Now we'll make our connection here. I want to take my line cutter, make another clean cut. I want to make sure it's good and square, and if it isn't, you can always trim just a little bit off the end. Now we'll just push that into place into our fitting. Now we'll get this one plugged in. Now we'll follow up with this one and plug this one in as well. And now we'll get this one routed towards the back. Now we just got our quick connect hooked up here on the back of our RV. We just went ahead and drilled through our fiberglass and then ran the supplied bolts and washers through. And now we can get our line ran here to the back to this. Now our routing, we did have to leave a loop. You don't want to have any kinks in your line. So we kind of left that hang down and we came up with our line up and over our frame, tied off to that. And we did tie off to frame support up here, and then we came on back above our hitch support here, tied off to that. Went up and we ended up meeting up with a factory wiring harness and came across that, tying off. And then we ended up coming down over to our fitting. Now keep in mind, you do want to keep this little cover, and you'll have one for both of your fittings. You want to keep those just to keep from dirt and just the elements from messing up your fitting, and it'll keep things nice and clean and ready to go for you. Now after we've made all of our connections and everything's all tightened up and put where we want them, we went ahead and got this one fired up and let our tanks pressure up. And one of the things you want to do after you're all done is go down your line and check all of your fittings where you've got everything plugged in. You just want to take some soapy water and just shoot those and see if you see any large bubbles or anything coming out. You're just going to go and do that all the way down and check all of your connections to be sure everything is good. Now, if you do see a little bit of a bubble, like a large bubble coming out, all you'll have to do is just pop your line out, and you can just pull in this keeper and then pull your line out clean it up and then snip it back off, make sure it's good, and like a 90-degree, pop that back in, push it all the way, and go ahead and give it a recheck. And for the last part of your installation, all you're going to do is plug in your 12-volt plug, and you'll have your monitor here on your dash. You can put that wherever you want it. And with that installed, that'll do it for your installation of your Air Force One braking system on our 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe. I'm Scott with Etrailer, and thanks for watching.